I have one from Tuesday at 6:30.
Isn't that, oh, Tuesday at 6:30, right, that's the last one I have.
Okay.
It's not yesterday, that's.
Tuesday,
Did I miss? I don't have
Is that
anything from
the-
Wednesday, I have, yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. All
Tuesday
right.
at 6:30.
Hold on. Yes, I know.
In between.
Okay, I'm sorry. He just sent it to me. Sorry, I will
Ah.
forward it
Oh.
to you all. Okay, so it'll take a moment to reach you. I didn't realize he just sent it to me. Okay. All right, coming to you all now. Okay, so let's rewind for a moment. So good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here this morning. Appreciate everyone being able to make it in early this morning, especially given the fact that in some parts of the state, the roads were not at all very nice to be traveling on. So thank you once again. So we're circling back to the Department of Health and did it come to your email yet?
I just refreshing again. Yeah.
Okay, well, it's okay. We can have the team start to describe it because I know that they have it and it'll pop up into your email momentarily. So we don't need to go through the things that we've already gone through. But if you could describe what it is that you are looking for in terms of additional priority. There's an insertion here that we did not talk about yesterday. So whichever one of you wants to talk about, it's fine.
Sean, would you like me to speak?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Terrific. Thank you very much. We were underneath a highest priority under section 313. There was no governor's recommended amount. I did speak briefly in regards. So what we're requesting is a 4% COLA increase to preferred mental health substance abuse partners, as well as recovery centers and recovery residents. So we're looking to see if we may be able to implement a 4% cost of living increase in regards to our preferred substance use providers, mental health, as well as our recovery centers and recovery residencies. I think that, as was expressed, I believe that to be equitable and inclusive, allowing each of these agencies that are doing outstanding work and not just focusing on one section of recovery, but making sure that we're applying the 4% cost of living increase across the board for our outstanding providers that are putting in such unbelievable work to address the substance abuse and mental health matters. We have emailed over to Nolan asking what that increase amount would look like. It has not been responded back to. He did state it's going to be a little while. So I don't know. I'll put this out to you, Therese, whether or not it's possible to establish language that expresses a 4% COLA increase to these partnering agencies and allow them to maybe figure out what that money is.
Okay, so that in talking with the VDH team here, one of the things that I suggested is that we try to be consistent across all of our community-based providers and looking at this was a sector that had not previously been addressed in the report. And so it's also consistent with what the the Dale team recommended for home and community-based providers. So we will await the number from Nolan. And is there any questions about the concept from folks? No? Okay. All right, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, last and certainly not least, we have DCF, Economic Services and Office of Economic Services and
Economic
Opportunity. See, I know they should be one thing. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. Jubilee.
Okay, so we can just start at the top with HOP. That is B 325. There were a lot of other kind of governors in the governor's recommendations that are kind of related to admin stuff increases, that we were in agreement with. And then, but we wanted to talk about the HOP program. The governor has in the base, 29,000 or 29 million, $798,061. And this is $3.7 million increase in base over FY25. And that is to, last year we had shelter expansions, and that is to support increasing the services, just to be able to support the operations and services provided from that.
And so I just want to make sure everybody has the document open.
I'm trying to find it.
I
I know you sent it. I'm not.
Wednesday, 8:53 AM.
Thank you.
I don't know. That's the one I just found. Is that, okay,
Yeah, thank you.
there we go. Yep.
Yeah, I knew it was.
Pieces of language, but not
Yeah. I have that problem too. That's why I said, let's wait and make sure
Yeah.
everybody's on.
And then there was another piece of language that came in, and so I thought I would just resend the language all in one doc.
That
I
was.
should have just put the this in there as well. This will have some changes. I've got the information now. Ag passed out their recommendations around food banks, so I have to put
Okay.
that in and.
Okay. Okay, so what,
So
you have agreement with the governor
Well,
in space? Or are you?
that is one option. We can agree. And then with the caveat, we talked about this. There's the base, and then there's one time.
So let's just deal with the base.
Okay,
right
so
now.
one of one thing we could consider this base would just be level funding all of our service providers, which we know is really due to inflation, a cut.
Yeah,
So we could go with the same base, or we could add $1 million, which would allow a 4% increase.
so $1 million would be a 4% increase for all HOP providers. Is that what you're saying? In the HOP funds? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, well, if we can, there's two ways. It would be 1.4 if we do the total base with that 3.7 million.
Yes, okay.
Or if, which may or may not have increases already calculated into that. Or 1 million, just to add a cost of living or inflation to what was formerly in the base.
Okay, so we'll go with 1 million. All right. So 1 million would represent a 4% increase. You'll be hearing a theme, again, just because I think it bears repeating, in that any service that's provided in state government by state employees has all the accounting for the inflationary costs accounted for and in the governor's budget. Any service provided by our community partners, with the exception of nursing homes, has no inflationary increase attention at all. And so in trying to be consistent, we are doing our best to raise that as an issue, and it's a perennial issue, and it's our job to continue to raise that issue. So I'm not sure if I have the right one open. I think I do, but so you don't actually say this one.
I didn't, I completely,
That's okay.
there's a lot of moving parts, and it was something I overlooked.
I'm taking notes in here and I'll put them in bed and
I have another version that is still in flux, where I have notes like that in it as well.
That's all right. I'm
So that would be 30,798,061.
okay, 1 million for a 4% increase. Okay, and that's 1 million in GF because this is not Medicaid, it's not GF.
Yeah.
It's not GSAF. Okay.
Curious, so that's to increase salaries?
Rates, it increases the rates.
It's weird, really weird when social security got 2.5 this year. I just.
This
want to
isn't
point
all
that
about,
out.
so Brenda, this is not all about salaries. This is about the cost of food in shelters. This is about the cost of heating fuel and
Health
other
insurance.
health insurance, salaries. It's all of those things. So 4%.
Oh, I'm at 4%, sorry, so they say social
So-
security, the insurance went up 2.5 and you got a 2.5, so you basically broke even.
And so this is for all costs related to providing services.
Okay, so not just salaries.
Nope, it's not just salaries.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, should I go into the one time?
No, we'll do
Oh,
one time
okay.
after, okay?
Okay,
Oh, well, you have it right underneath there,
yeah.
in there. Okay, so go for it.
Okay, and so then there was, $2 million that they cited for shelter expansion. We kind of started this discussion yesterday. We were a little bit talking about, ERAP, which is a federal program, and that funding will end, at the end of June. Right now, it's, we've been told the calculations originally 4 million, but one of the kind of community partners will not be seeking that funding. So it'll be 3.75 million to continue funding ERAP. And that will be 33 case managers. And we're already facing kind of a backlog in our ability to provide
33, is that what you said?
33.
Okay.
And so, our recommendation, was that caveat that 2 million in one-time funds be utilized for partial replacement of those community-based positions that have been previously funded through ERAP.
Okay,
And Katie is still working on the language part around that. She had to do some workshopping with some other people and see the best way.
okay. And so the 3.75, because what I'm understanding from what we heard in testimony is that 3.75 are the case manager type positions, but also used for rental, that some of that money was used for rental assistance.
Some of the ERAP was, my,
It's, I don't need to know the
Yeah,
dollar amount. I
yeah.
just
I can-
making my notes about
I'll get back to you on whether that also includes that kind of short, that
the
rental,
whether the
Yeah.
3.75 included that. Okay,
rental assistance or not.
okay.
Anyone in the room wants to email me and knows the answer, let me know.
Okay. And that is from the 1100 line, right? 1100, the,
That would be, yes, sorry,
the
one time.
The exact, it's one times, yeah, okay. Okay, all right.
Ask the question.
Yes, absolutely.
So the governor's stated intention in the budget with the 2 million is to put it towards increased sheltering capacity. Is that correct? And did they, do we know whether they have gotten very far in their thinking of how they would use that? Was there a specific types of shelters or locations or something that they anticipated?
I have been unable to get details, and a lot of this, from the department. So no, I have no information about that.
Thank you.
And just for context, there was 10 million in one time, two 10 million tranches in FY 25, the year that we're in now, for shelter services and expansion. And we asked about that with Lily yesterday, and she said the money has been all committed, not all spent, but all committed. So I don't know specifically about this 2 million. You know, I have heard, not in official testimony, but in discussions, I have heard that they are looking to make the family shelters that were developed in Waterbury and Williston, not necessarily in those locations, but looking to make two family shelters permanent at some point during this next year. So I'm sure that that's probably tied up in some of these resources. And so we're continuing to have ongoing discussions with DCF about actually how much has been expended in the FY 25 GA line item, as well as what they have put in the budget. So
I guess my hope is that if they can find more efficient ways to spend some of the sheltering money they have, that it would allow for consideration, moving monies towards ERAP. It seems like some of the sheltering contracts, out-of-state vendors, et cetera, if that could be spent more efficiently, we would have the resources.
yes, and I think that we're going to see language when we look at language a little bit later today. We're going to see language that concentrates on utilizing in-state vendors.
Thank you.
Any other questions on that right now? Okay, thank you.
Okay, GA emergency housing. Okay, so governor's recommended amount, there is like 8.15 million in one time, and
No, in base.
or in base, sorry. And recommended 30.5 million in one time. I kind of been seeing that budget description, other notes, the FY 25 amounts. There was 20 million in contingency funds, 16.5 in one time, and then that 8.1 in base. And then if you, oops, I closed my own language doc. Are we not looking at language?
We're not going to look at language
Okay.
right now. We're going to look at language altogether. Just to avoid going back and forth.
Yeah. So, we have up on the wall H91, and we really recognize there needs to be a transition year. And in the meantime, we want to keep households stable. I think we learned a lot already so far in testimony on how harmful constantly destabilizing people is. And this 80-day cap has been incredibly harmful. People move in and then they move out. And it is really hard to work on the things you need to do to become permanently housed when you're really just trying to figure out where you're going to be next week or next month. Also, just, even if someone first day, they enter into that hotel and magically they're prioritized, they have an apartment and a voucher. The way things work in our systems, so they get prioritized, they've got to fill out an application. So they have to meet with their case manager. Let's say they get an apartment with Downstreet, maybe as a project-based voucher. Built right in. So they have to apply to Downstreet. So they have to do that application, which has a lot, these common apps are no easy task. And there's a lot of information you have to supply. Maybe you don't have your children's social security cards, or maybe you were camping in Burlington and your camp got swept and someone else got to decide what was garbage and what was worth keeping, and your social security cards are gone. You've now got to work with the Social Security Administration and get new cards. Every little step takes time. So say you get approved, everything is going great, you get approved. Now they have to do an income calculation. So you've got to provide all of your sources of income. You've got to provide documentation of third-party documentation. So again, if you receive Social Security and you don't have a copy of that benefit letter, you've got to reach out to the Social Security Administration to get it. You've got to reach out to Economic Services and get a copy of your benefits. You've got to get printouts of all of any bank accounts. If you have a Venmo account, you've got to get all of these things. And then it's got to be processed. And that doesn't always happen. These verifications have a certain time limit. And so if it is over that limit, then you've got to start over. And I can tell you, it is very start to finish. It is very rare that process takes less than 80 days. So even if you're super lucky, you're ready to move into housing, you are not going to get housed in 80 days. So yeah, these time limits are arbitrary, and they're contributing to the overall amount of trauma people experiencing homelessness in Vermont are experiencing. Sat down with the chair, and so we recommend getting rid of the 80-day caps. We're still, I think, kind of thinking around, our recommendation was we keep 1,400 rooms year round, winter weather or not.
So is what you're thinking about is looking at a capacity for the program.
Yeah.
Still understanding that not all people will be housed, but looking at an overall capacity for the program.
Exactly.
So let me ask a question. So people who go to a community-based shelter, let's just say run by Good Sam or run by, CHT or, somebody else. What are their day limits for staying in a community-based shelter?
I mean, we've asked this question.
Yeah.
Very few have day limits currently. There used to be more, and just really a recognition, I think most community-based shelters, there's no limits anymore.
No day.
There are some with those kind of pop-up ones where there can be limits. I can't say 100%.
Yeah.
But I will note, we heard, bringing up these two, the family shelters in Waterbury and Williston, during the BAA, when the department was here and testifying originally around the budget. They said the plan was that those shelters were going to close 4/1. And I think they thought, with services, sign someone up, get them benefits, and get some applications done, and they were going to be housed. And I think they've realized that that's not going to happen. And we're probably likely facing having to throw those 17 families to the streets because there is nowhere for them to go. And so we heard yesterday that from Lily and from the deputy commissioner that the plan now is to extend the closing of those shelters. So the reality is these time limits aren't based in reality, and they cause harm.
I hear what you're saying. My concern is there should be a time limit, but you could word it different, like you're saying, paperwork, whatever. Word it actual housing days. Because I actually have somebody in the field looking at H91. She hasn't got it back to me. She's going to give me some good questions that actually do it, not people that are like people top down that actually is on the front line. And she said you shouldn't take out the 80 days, but I haven't got her notes or anything. I'll see if she's got it done yet.
Well,
Because we're only hearing from people that don't work on the front line. And she said it wouldn't be a good idea to take out the days, but we could word it different.
Yes.
Actual housing days, not paperwork days. I understand that.
Yeah.
Actual in-house.
And I think we're also trying to create some equity in the system. And right now, honestly, we came up with 80 days last year. It was relatively arbitrary. It was more based on a financial decision as opposed to a policy decision. And those are pretty distinct decisions. So we'll be looking at language actually because our work on H91 is we're anticipating that the effective date of that will be not until FY27, so that we will need a transition year. So this year coming up will be a transition year. And so there will be language in session law, as it's referred to, in the budget that says how what the program will be. And Representative McGill is working with Katie McLean on laying out that language, and we'll see that later today.
And I'll call my friend that actually does this and see if she's done. I told her to write me good questions because I'm not good at winging it.
It's okay, whatever,
Okay.
we'll try to address your questions.
Okay.
And again, I'm not expecting everybody around the table to agree on every recommendation here. Once our committee makes a recommendation, then it is a recommendation of our full committee.
Thank you.
Okay,
Yeah, so, I mean, initially, we just kind of put the 44.6. I've got to meet with, I just got some more, financial information to.
so there's a difference between what is in the FY 25 budget at 44.6 million and what is being, so actually there's a decrease being recommended of 44,638, about $6 million.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's just to put in context, there's a decrease of about $6 million from what is being spent this year to what is being proposed. Which is it?
And rates of homelessness have gone up.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the data is on that, but I mean, I know
Yeah.
we've seen that there, and we've seen the recurring rates, once you enter permanent housing doesn't mean you stay in permanent housing. So, there is some of that. Yeah, go ahead, Eric.
Thank you. Are we looking to, just a clarification, are we looking to expand capacity to 1,400? So the capacity is remaining,
At that.
Right now, yeah.
whatever the
Yeah.
level is at this time. That's what's remaining. Thank you.
Yes.
That's kind of the natural capacity we have right now. And if a hotel decided to no longer participate, then that capacity would go down because we're just kind of at this natural capacity we have of hotel owners.
And the other thing that I think you'll see in the language when we talk about it a little bit later is we're not looking to expand anything. We're looking to kind of maintain a status quo essentially that we have for this year.
Yeah, I guess my question will come to the language.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
don't really have a question now.
No. yeah, without seeing
Staying
that.
the fine tuning.
Yeah, and there's a lot of language on that because it's like putting the whole program into the budget. So, okay, why don't we move on to the summer EBT?
These we were, they recommended for summer EBT, an additional 5,400,000 in spending authority. We agree with that. And then the Three Squares caseload pressures, they recommended an additional 1.3 million. And we agree with that.
Okay,
Oh, yes, it's my understanding when people are approved for their EBT cards, it's based on their monthly income and so on. It doesn't have anything to do with if kids are in school or not in school. So why would they need more during the summer? Because these cards are based on monthly, whether their kids are in school or not. So I don't understand it. And
there's
plus
actually a separate
they have
program.
a free meal.
There's a separate program for summer. It's a whole separate program for summer.
That funds that free meal.
That's
Oh, that's what that is.
Yes.
Oh, misunderstood.
Yeah.
I thought it was putting it in the cards and I'm gonna,
No, that's what funds it. Yeah.
oh, I like that meal for the
Okay,
kids.
and that's actually a,
So that's for the meal at.
that's new. This is a new thing that started this past year and is now being added to the base.
Oh, this is above and beyond?
No, it's what
No.
the governor has in the base for this
Okay.
year.
Governor.
That's the base.
Yes, governor, that's a governor recommend.
Okay,
Okay,
so that isn't going directly, that goes to like. For the
Goes to
lunch
meal sites,
program,
yeah.
meal sites, great. That's good.
okay. So moving on to GA support services.
Yep, this is kind of the other part of GA. There's, I thought it might be helpful if I just kind of get to it.
To talk a
Give you
little
an
bit about
idea
what
of
is in there.
what
Yeah.
those services are, because we talked about them. One thing, we've acknowledged, there's not a lot of information about these services and that they're available. So some. Let me just find. There we go. So some of the things that can help, it kind of covers emergency needs for people who really have very little to no resources. I'm talking very, very little. And so it can help with things like groceries, buying some groceries one time. Maybe they need some food for a week. There's a little bit of help for room and board. There's some emergency, and these are all small numbers within these lines, like groceries, 288,000, 2,500 room and board. These are just little funds.
Don't they assist people with burials who don't have?
Yep, I'm
Oh, you're
reading
good.
down.
Yeah,
Home
sorry.
rent, they can help with cost at pharmacies, dental emergencies,
It's sort of the true meaning
medical
of general assistance.
assistance,
Yeah.
yes, burials,
Yeah.
SSI refunds, there's some lines for reproductive health care. So yeah, these are just funds, general funds to really help with emergency needs for people who don't have other resources. They're one time.
All right, this is what you've been talking about. And we talked about in the BAA as well, because there was a reduction in BAA.
There was a reduction in
About public outreach for people to know.
about these services. There has been a lot of turnover in the kind of supportive services case manager world. And I find a lot of people don't even realize these funds exist and are a resource available to
And the
Vermonters.
bulk of these is coming into compliance with the legislation around the GA. The department had requested more funds than what the legislature appropriated for security services when necessary at hotels.
Yes.
And so we had set a maximum of 500,000. They had 839,000 in the budget, and so they're reducing 339 to come into compliance with what the legislature had said in FY25.
And they're currently not using any security at hotels, though that could change if kind of depends on
Yeah,
the atmosphere.
seems to make sense to have,
Some funds,
some
I
funds there.
agree.
yeah.
Their proposed overall, it's $638,473 reduction. So I presented a couple of options. One could be that the money just remains level funded in each category from the FY25 budget. And I did speak with the deputy commissioner, and she agrees there is room for more education around this, and that is something they're going to work on. Or we can go recommend 2 was just we reallocate that money to the GA emergency housing budget line.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask one question?
Yes, quickly. I do want to get through all of this section before 9:15. We're gonna have more discussion when we get to the decision-making point, but I'd like Jubilee to be able to get through explaining, because we've got a few more items, so why don't you go ahead?
Okay, let me switch over to the ag recommendations. Okay, so there for the around like the food banks and food security, they are recommending 500,000 for NOFA Vermont for the Crop Cash Plus, and Farm Share programs, which allows folks to use their benefits to get locally grown nutritious produce. I believe in sometimes doubles or triples, like they go to a farmer's market, they can use their SNAP benefits and actually double those benefits. So it's actually, not only are we addressing food security, we're also helping our farmers in Vermont. There is $2 million in new base funding to the Vermont Food Bank for the Vermonters Feeding Vermonters program, which is, again, that is sources food for food banks from Vermont growers and manufacturers.
Okay.
And
So
then,
this is, what you're recommending is that we support the Ag Committee's recommendation. So it's not money from us, but the Agriculture and Food Resiliency, Agriculture, Forest Products and Food Resiliency, they have a long title, is recommending that. And so for people sort of new to this, quite often, for instance, I know that in House Commerce, they are going to be supporting our recommendation, our potential recommendation around childcare, for instance, because of the workforce issues. Come on in, come on in. We're just running a couple minutes late and feel free to come in and make your way. And so likewise, we also look at recommendations that other committees are making that impact the folks who we serve. Okay.
Okay.
Restaurant meals.
Restaurant meals program, you'll see we have a bill on the wall. I introduced it. Senator Hardy in the Senate also introduced a companion bill. My understanding is that Senate Health and Welfare is going to be taking this bill up.
Excuse me. Sorry, Sarah, can you move over here?
I can send you more information as well. What this program is it allows flexibility for 3 squares participants versus their specific eligibility for households who a member is a senior or 60 years of age and older. They have a disability or they are experiencing homelessness.
This is essentially a placeholder. The Senate is moving the bill and they've asked us to put a placeholder in. And the reason they've asked us is because the House always acts on the budget first, and then it goes to the Senate. So they've asked for a placeholder here. So this is just essentially that.
So these figures, again, are just initial. It's important to note that all of the costs to operate the SNAP program and would be these additional costs for the restaurant meals program are 50% federal funds and then 50% general funds. So there would be a 50%. So when you see these figures, 50% of them are coming from the federal government. So there's base costs, 1 full-time pay grade, 26 position. That cost would be $125,000 a year, which includes all the fringe benefits.
You don't need to go through all of this.
Oh, never mind.
Yeah.
Moving through. We already did T211. And so then the next are requests. We talked a bit about ERAP. And this is just, the total is 3.75 million. This is a recommendation that we do another 1.7, fully funded.
Okay.
Then we have the home family voucher program, which also is going to be ended June 30th, 2025. And 2.4 million, with $2.4 million, we could allow those in the program an additional, we could extend it to 36 months of assistance and provide support for another 50 additional families to enter the program. Then we have 2 requests from VCAP. One is for their micro business development program.
And VCAP is the Association of Community
Action Programs, yes. And this would represent an 87,661 increase. And then they have one for their financial coaching program. And this would be a $357,699 increase. Both of these programs are geared to low-income Vermonters and provide pathways for them out of poverty.
Okay.
And then there was one thing that I didn't put in here. It's in my other working doc that we talked about is H91 is we recommending that we have 10 million in one-time funds for transition.
Yes. Okay. And that will,
yeah.
we're going to do it on 1100 list. That would be
Okay.
below. Okay. But I'm going to add that right now because I don't.
It'll be on the one I send out in a little bit.
Okay. Yes.
Reach up. Didn't speak.
Did it get deleted? Oops, did I skip it?
I didn't see reach up either.
I did. It's up there, way up.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it's there. It's that way. Somewhere.
I sent the language.
Oh, the language is what I,
Okay,
yeah. You
yes, so reach up.
do it. Yeah.
Me. Okay, This one I am flying blind on. I have a lot of information. All of the information I am still waiting on, and I'm seeking that now through other official sources. I was ready to just say we use the high caseload number, but sat down with the chair and we decided we had sent you the language. We had Katie draft language and recommend that it gets confusing. So the way it's calculated is we have the basic need budget, which is years past. It's from a prior year before all of the inflation we have seen recently. And a housing allowance, again, very, very old prior to all of the inflation we have seen. And we say, this is how much you need to meet your very basic needs and survive. And then we have the rateable reduction. So we take that right now, that percentage is 49.6%. So we say you get a little less than half of what you need to survive. So you will see language. My recommendation is that we increase the percentage, which reduces the rateable reduction so we increase the percentage to 50.6% this year. And language to reduce it, increase the percentage and reduce the reduction by an additional percentage next year.
It's a lot. You had a lot.
Yeah, thank you for all your
Thank
work.
you. I want to thank everybody for what they've done so far. We still have additional stuff to do, and we will pick it up after we go through some witnesses this morning who have joined us. It is Rare Disease Day here at the State House, and welcome to everyone who has joined us. We really appreciate y'all being here, and why don't we do just a quick run around the room so we all know who you are and you all know who we are. So my name is Teresa Wood. I am a representative from Waterbury, and I also represent Bolton, Hillsborough, and Huntington.
Ann Donahue, from Northfield. Northfield. And also represent Berlin.
Good morning, I'm Dan Noyes. I represent Woolkit, Hyde Park, Johnson, and Belvedere.
Hi, good morning and welcome. Eric McGuire, representative for Rutland City.
Brenda Steady, East Milton, Westford.
Doug Bishop, and I represent part of Colchester.
Todd Nielsen, I represent Brandon Park.
Good morning, I'm Son Eastis and I represent Guilford and Vernon.
Hey everyone, I'm Jubilee McGill and I'm from Bridport, and I also represent Middlebury, New Haven, and Weybridge.
Good morning, I'm Ray Garofano and I represent Essex and Essex Junction. Welcome.
And then we'll start with Matt and go all the way around the room.
Matthew DeVoe from Action Circles.
Lori Morse, the assistant.
Me?
Yeah.
I'm Katie Conrad from Essex. I'm Williamson from Essex and the ALS Association. I'm Carolyn Sheridan. I'm here from the National Organization for Rare Disorder. I'm Sam. I live in Marshfield.
I'm Mary Megan Scott from Northfield. I'm Nancy Luke from Bristol and ALS Ambassador.
Patty Elliott.
I'm Sarah Elliott. I'm with the Rare Disease Advisory Council group, and I'm from Glover.
I'm Darla Sanapol. I'm from Addison County, Bristol. Shout out to Bristol. I'm here supported by my good friend Nancy Luke, but I'm also often around here for my job, which is with Building Bright Futures. So you might see lots of my constituents.
Morning, I'm Molly Dugan. I work at Cathedral Square.
And I'm Sarah Kenny from Let's Break It.
Great. So we have a number of people who are listed here, and I'm not sure if y'all know the order or if it doesn't really matter to us, the order in which you come, but I have Carolyn listed as first.
Thank you, Chair. I'm here just to facilitate questions. I want to make sure you can all hear from your constituents today.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. So Sarah.
Oops. Do you want me to pass them out? You said to bring a copy for everyone.
Sure, just take one for yourself and then leave it for, take one and go around.
And do I just sit here?
Yeah.
Yes, please do. And then if you have, it looks like everybody has their, things prepared. If you can send them electronically to our committee assistant, Lori Morse, so that we can post them and other people can look at them as well. That would be wonderful. Absolutely, if it's okay with them.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good morning. Again, I'm Sarah. I'm from Glover. I'm here to ask for your support in establishing the RDAC. A rare disease is defined by law as a condition affecting fewer than 200,000 people in the US. I am here as a patient with a rare disorder. I have a variation of skeletal dysplasia, which is also known as dwarfism. Dwarfism, I could talk all day about it, so I'll try to keep it really, really simple here. It's not something to be cured or fixed, but it's important to understand that there are a lot of medical needs and extensive management that goes into this diagnosis. Babies with dwarfism are often born to parents of average height, which is the case for my family. My parents, we had no history of dwarfism in our family, and I was born with this condition in the late 1980s. My mom had a healthy pregnancy. There was not a lot of need for prenatal care, so she didn't even know of my condition until after I was born. I was misdiagnosed initially in the late 80s. Technology was different. And it's taken, I'm 36 now, so it's taken a long time. It took 25 years to find out I was misdiagnosed. I had not met others with dwarfism in the state of Vermont. I didn't know anybody else that had dwarfism until I became an adult and I got involved with the Little People of America. I learned that there were few medical experts in dwarfism and there's limited information available. One expert is in New York City, and I was fortunate to go down there this past fall and finally meet with somebody who's an expert in the condition that I have. There are upwards of 700 different types of dwarfism. The most common one is achondroplasia. That's where a lot of the research goes. There are now early treatments that you can begin with babies between the ages of 0 and 5, and that has been shown to increase growth, which reduces the need for certain interventions later in life, like breathing tubes, and potentially not needing spinal surgeries. I have seen improvements to Vermont healthcare policy, not specifically like aimed at dwarfism, but about 14 years ago, I had my hips replaced. And when I had that done, physical therapy, you were only allowed 30 visits a year. And my hip was broken. My pelvis got broken on accident. So I had to rehab my hip for much longer than the typical period. And I was told that the only people that were able to get more physical therapy were individuals that had traumatic brain injuries. So over the course of the last 14 years, I skipped ahead, but I now have unlimited physical therapy visits. So it took 14 years, but now I can go to physical therapy as much as I need to, which is really important in managing the chronic pain and the arthritis, the joint pain, the joint contractures that result from the dwarfism. Creating the RDAC will give us an advisory body to come in and talk about this kind of stuff, how it's helped, individual cases, much more than just the little bit of time we have. So with that, I just respectfully ask for your support in the creation of Bill H46, ensuring the voices of Vermonters with rare diseases are able to be heard in state health policy. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Okay, Katie.
Want me to just stay right here?
No, we have an official witness chair. You're an official witness. But we don't bite, we promise. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us. I'll just take a swig of my water. Hello, I am Katie Pocket from Essex, Vermont. I am here today both as a patient and an advocate, and to ask for your help for H46, which would establish a rare disease advisory council in the state of Vermont. I am both a rare and complex patient with Ehlers-Danlos, Sjogren's syndrome, and fibromyalgia. If you look up Sjogren's, it might say it only causes dry eyes and mouth, but it is important for people to understand the complications that can come with this disease, and that it can vary for each person. Mine has progressed and symptoms can be so scary. I'm speaking out today because I'm someone who has always been afraid to speak up. But after living with rare and chronic illnesses, I need to make sure I can be a voice for those who are too afraid to speak up, because not only can it be terrifying, but it can also be incredibly lonely. I never imagined my life would be filled with doctor's appointments, physical therapy, and procedures, but it is. I know I look healthy, but I live in constant pain with flare-ups and added anxiety. When I mention the loneliness of living with rare diseases, I am speaking for thousands of Vermonters who feel the same way. Many of us have conditions so rare that we might be the only person in our community with that diagnosis. A rare disease advisory council would create a dedicated place where our voices can come together and our collective experiences can inform policy and build a true community for those who often feel invisible in the healthcare system. This is not only about having a voice in government, it's about creating connections between patients, families, healthcare providers, and researchers who are otherwise disconnected across our state. A rare disease advisory council would provide a way for patients like me to have a voice in state government and inform state leaders about these challenges to create potential solutions. I am asking you to please support H46 to help ensure that people living with rare diseases in Vermont have a voice in state health policy. Thank you for your time and dedication to this issue. Together we are stronger. Thank you.
Great job. Be great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All righty. Mary?
Might take me a minute. Very important. In the meantime, while you're waiting for.
You can move, yeah, I was just gonna ask Doug if you would move that chair. Thank you.
Yeah, I do have some props. I didn't know it. Well, I am fumbling with my words. If you could pass these around, those are the disease that I have. With some stuff and in honor of Rare Disease Day tomorrow, I brought some zebra cakes, which are full of sugar, but maybe after lunchtime. And I mumble my words, so I brought some copies, but I certainly will do them electronically, so thank you.
Thank you.
This is my little friend to give me some extra confidence. It's gonna lay down. So I'm gonna read this because my disease, I tend to store my words and lose focus, and I often digress. So, hello, my name is Mary Nathan Scott. I'm a resident of Northfield and a constituent member, or a constituent committee member Representative Ann Donahue. And I am an advocate for rare disease. I am here to ask you for your support for H46, which would establish a rare disease advisory council in Vermont. In 2002, I was diagnosed with a rare genetic progressive neuromuscular disease called Friedreich's ataxia. Rare disease is defined by federal law, Orphan Drug Act. The condition affected fewer than 200,000 people in the U.S. When I was first diagnosed, I felt very alone and very lost. Other rare disease patients have different diagnoses. The barriers we face are often the same. Rare isn't so rare. With more than 10,000 known rare diseases, the impact is 1 in 10 Americans, nearly 30 million people nationwide. It is difficult for state policymakers and government officials
have an in-depth understanding of the needs of rare disease community. This lack of awareness can is the common obstacles that rare disease patients face. I have been working with the governor and his office since 2019 to raise rare disease awareness, and I've been successful in this in many ways, including the governor's support proclaiming the last day of February to be Rare Disease Day in Vermont. A Rare Disease Advisory Council and RDAC would provide an official way for patients to have a voice in state government and inform leaders about these challenges and potential solutions. 30 states have created an RDAC, which provide policy recommendation and increase awareness of the rare disease challenges. RDACs vary by state in members, oversight, and responsibilities, but all work to improve healthcare access and resources. Currently, there are 10 states considering RDAC bills, reflecting growing momentum. Vermont's RDAC bill, H46, creates the Rare Disease Advisory Council within the Vermont Department of Health to advise lawmakers and agencies on rare disease issues and ensures that patients, caregivers, healthcare providers, researchers, and policy experts have a voice, help shape better care and support. This is done through annual reports, public hearings, research, and policy recommendations to improve access to diagnoses and treatment. As a rare disease, I feel like having an RDAC in Vermont is prioritized patients and caregivers. One of their voices remains central. It would mean a lot to me to see the state of Vermont join the rest of the state and have an RDAC. I respectfully ask you to support H46, help ensure that individuals living with rare disease in Vermont have a voice in state health policy. Thank you for your time and dedication to this important issue.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you.
I'm gonna leave the sugary thing.
Sweet. That's so nice of you.
You gotta get through your day somehow.
Thank you so much, Mary. Okay, and Sharon. Sharon not here?
Sharon and Ty are not joining,
Today. Okay.
but they did send in their testimony to Lori.
Lori, okay. Is there anybody else who wishes to speak today? Okay. Please join us. Yes. Morning. That's okay. Take your time.
I'm Nancy Luke, and if you hear me, let me know. I'm from Bristol, and I have ALS. ALS, you may have heard as Lou Gehrig's disease. It's a rare, aggressive, degenerative motor neuron disease. As it progresses, the body becomes paralyzed, resulting in inability to walk, talk, swallow, and eventually to breathe. The average lifespan from diagnosis is generally 2 to 5 years. There currently is no cure. I was diagnosed with ALS in 2022. It took me 4 years to get a diagnosis, which in turn makes me ineligible for clinical trials, fortunately. When you are diagnosed with an unusual or rare disease in a small state like ours, it can be difficult to get coordinated information and find all the resources available to you. People are not familiar with rare diseases. How many have heard of your disease or we've heard of yours, but how often do we see it in Vermont? So people just aren't familiar with what is wrong with you. With ALS, as an example, everybody knows what the ice bucket challenge is, right?
Mhm.
Did you really know what ALS was? I
had
didn't,
a friend with it.
but unless you know somebody, it was like this, cool, fun thing to make you feel good, but you didn't really know what was happening. I often have to explain what ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease is. Living with ALS or any terminal disease is scary. You're always wondering what part of your body is going to go next. For me, my legs are going, my voice is obviously deteriorating. I need to use a walker and sometimes a wheelchair, depending on how far I'm going. Not too fun in snowy Vermont. My town does an amazing job, and I see the sidewalk go by my house multiple times a day, but I still cannot walk on our sidewalks. And so getting in and out, transferring to appointments or just to the store is a hurdle. Sometimes you just don't feel like it's even worth it to go out. Literally 2 years ago, I was skiing. I worked in the ski industry. I was snowshoeing. I was hiking. I was a long distance cyclist. And kayaking was a passion. I can't do any of those things now. It's very frustrating to be an active person and become sedentary. I still have a problem wrapping my head around sitting around the house. Caregivers carry a heavy load that most people cannot comprehend, both physically, mentally, and financially. They're in it just as much as the patient is. Many are balancing work as well as caregiving. And some have to leave their jobs as they cannot afford income in care, in-home care, excuse me. In-home care is exorbitantly and prohibitively expensive. More understanding of what people living with rare diseases face would go a long way in making life easier for those families and for employers, as well as enable the general public to be more informed. A rare disease advisory council would help bring attention to diseases like ALS and give patients and caregivers a voice. Thank you for considering this legislation and for allowing me to be here today. Most states of the Northeast already have a council in place. Do we want to be left behind? I don't think so. Let's show Vermonters that we do care and we do prioritize people with rare diseases and get this done. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Is there anybody else who wants to talk today?
Like to hear, if I could.
Yes, of course.
My name is Karen Hammer Williamson. I'm the Care Services Manager for Vermont for the ALS Association. And I formerly worked for Vermont Department of Aging and Independent Living, expanding alternatives to nursing.
Thank you, Karen.
Welcome. We have filed a support letter, and I just want to highlight one point. We've talked a lot about the invaluable need for patient voices to be heard. We also included in our letter that with 10,000 rare diseases, it is very difficult for the larger provider community of human services that intersect with healthcare to communicate with all these folks. And so one of the very important functions that can happen is creating a list that allows for ready communication. This has become desperately needed in the last few weeks. There is, frankly, fear. There are real survival issues for people here. There are real threats to investments in research into research centers in Vermont. And the ability to rapidly and deeply communicate out to people quickly will be important. Just last summer, there was a short notice change made to non-emergency medical transportation prior authorizations that didn't reach the rare diseases, and many people were displaced from their clinic appointments, which are very costly and scheduled well in advance for weeks or months. Those clinics or specialty appointments are vital to preventing harms. There are just so many factors that are more complicated with rare diseases, and with ALS, particularly, time is of the essence. When it takes so long to get a diagnosis, we don't have a direct test yet. We don't have any time to waste, and we have made gains thanks to multidisciplinary care and the medications online now. We have added 18 months to survival already, and there is a first report in SOD1 of a medication where function has improved for one type of ALS. It's a historic step. If we lose the research pipeline, if we lose connections to clinical care, it will be devastating and we won't recover for decades. So thank you very much for considering this.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
So, for folks, who've just testified and for committee members, I want you to know, leaving here today, that you have made an impact, okay? And we will take up H46. It won't be until after crossover. But we had some initial testimony last year, and thank you to I remember folks from last year who were here. So we will take that up. I want you to leave here knowing that you made a difference and that we will work on getting H46 passed out of the House and moved over to the Senate.
Thank you so, so much. That is so very appreciated. Well done, everybody. I did just want to say very quickly, there's going, for the committee members, there's going to be testimony in written form coming your way from a member of Massachusetts Rare Disease Advisory Council. She can speak to some of the experiences of how one of these councils in a neighboring state runs.
Okay.
Which are very commonly asked questions. So
Thank you. So
keep an eye out for that.
I appreciate
Thank you so
it.
much for your time today. Happy Rare Disease Day. I'll probably email each of you with a toolkit you can do as so to speak to share your strengths.
Okay.
And good luck with the rest of your work today.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for being here. We really, really appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your day. Stay safe on the roads and all of that.
Thank you.
I'll take the picture.
Where are you going next?
I don't represent Bristol, but it's good to have.